You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Dankman. And quick content warning for this next segment. We are going to be talking about sex. We're going to be talking about male sex organs in the Olympics. And you might get a couple spoilers for the hit HBO show Heated Rivalry. So you've been warned. Is it getting hot in here? Maybe that's just the climate dread. Whether Cupid has you on his naughty or naughtier list, you are going to want to stick around for this Valentine's Day edition of Front Page, where we talk about the most fascinating news stories arousing our interest right now and what they say about the Pacific Northwest. And my guest for Front Page today is the one, the only author of the Savage Love column and host of the Savage Lovecast Podcast. Dan Savage is here with me in studio. Welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's a thrill. First time podcast host, but long time reader of your work and big fan. So it's really a thrill, especially for Valentine's Day.
Yeah. I typically get trotted out a little bit on Valentine's Day, which is weird because in our house we don't do anything. I'm not very sentimental about Valentine's Day. So I'm always asked for my advice about Valentine's Day, and my advice is ignore it, which is not what anybody wants to hear.
So like year round is really the celebration of love for you.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Prove it every day with small acts of service. Don't overcompensate one day a year with insincere gifts. But the standard advice I give people on Valentine's Day who celebrate Valentine's Day is don't escalate, because you will reach a point where you can't outdo what you did last year, and then your partner may interpret that as you don't care anymore. Sure. So you want to identify a small, thoughtful gift that you can give every year, the same gift every year as a gesture. No escalation, no Valentine's Day gift arms race.
Okay, that's actually brilliant, and it's kind of blowing my mind because I think I've already trapped myself. But we'll get to that in just a little bit. First of all, story number one in Front Page, and we're going to Milan Cortina. I mean, on one level, the Olympics really are like a love letter to human athleticism, grace, dedication. We are going to get to some of the ways that politics and social media have kind of soured things a little bit. But first, Dan, let's keep it light. Let's keep it fun. What are you loving about this Olympics? What's grabbing your attention so far?
Well, in the Summer Olympics, we had the pole vaulter whose penis knocked the pole down. Yes. And of course, I was a big fan of that. And I didn't know if the Winter Olympics could outdo it, and it has in two big ways. The Penisgate controversy, where ski jumpers were injecting their penises with a substance that made their penises temporarily larger. I don't know why you wouldn't just keep injecting that all the time. But then they had extra fabric in their suits, which are very much form-fitted, and the extra fabric could then be used to create more lift. And so there's this big scandal with ski jumpers and whether or not they've been injecting their penises to game the penis system for ski jumping, which none of us knew existed until now. And also a Norwegian biathlete who won bronze took the opportunity of his medal interview to confess to having cheated on his girlfriend and begged for her forgiveness and hoped that she would interpret him, basically flagellating himself on the day of his biggest professional sports achievement and making it all about what a bad guy he was to her, how sorry he was, and how much he realizes now that he loves her and wants her back. And we hadn't seen that at the Olympics before.
I desperately want to ask you about this. So if that Norwegian biathlete, who again, took over the post-biathlon interview when he won bronze, and his teammates, by the way, won other medal, he had a teammate that won gold, but he made it all about himself. If you were advising in the Savage Love column the girlfriend of this biathlete, keep in mind, they've been together for 6 months, and he cheated on her on month 3. How would you advise? DTMFA?
No. Had you even had a DTR, define the relationship conversation, at 3 months? Is it reasonable to expect at 3 months sexual exclusivity? If you had a sexually exclusive agreement at 3 months, perhaps it was prematurely entered into. if you didn't, then he didn't necessarily owe you sexual exclusivity. Like often in opposite sex relationships, there's this assumption if we start sleeping together that we're not sleeping with anybody else. That's not necessarily so. I think one of the things that straight people need to steal from gay people is that monogamy is always a discussion and an agreement and opt-in.
Not an assumption.
Not an assumption, not a default setting. And we don't know exactly what was going on in Sturla Holm-Ligred's relationship. We don't know if they had opted in specifically or if they had both made assumptions that turned out not to be true, and then he hurt her feelings. Like, there's a lot we don't know, except that he cheated, he feels bad about it, he wants her back. I think if you're with somebody for 50 years and you discover that they cheated on you once or twice, at some point in the relationship, that they were good at monogamy, not bad at monogamy. We define infidelity as unforgivable. We define everything as infidelity, and then we experience infidelity as unforgivable. And that seems crazy. I don't know if this guy's going to be good at monogamy if they make a monogamous commitment over the long haul, but I wouldn't say that, like, still not having committed fully 3 months into a brand new relationship is evidence that a person couldn't make or honor a monogamous commitment.
What about, in my mind, a red flag, which is the big gesture, the big dramatic gesture of love for somebody that you've been dating for 6 months? Does that raise a red flag for you, Dan Savage?
It's very rom-com, right?
Yeah.
Grand romantic gestures make me uncomfortable. My husband and I, when we got married, we slipped across the border into Canada because we couldn't get married in the United States then. And we got married and we had a party to celebrate our 10th wedding or our 10th anniversary of having met. And we invited a bunch of people and we didn't tell anybody it was a wedding reception. Nobody knew that we had actually gotten married. So we are very much not the grand romantic gesture types, Terry and I, which is why there's no flowers or chocolate or anything on Valentine's Day. It's why every year when our anniversary rolls around, someone else has to remind us that it's our anniversary. So I'm suspicious of grand romantic gestures. I knew if I stood up and made a speech, if I won the Olympic medal in writing sex advice columns and gave a speech about my relationship or my husband or my boyfriend, that I would be single the day after.
Yeah.
We're not flash mob proposal types. This is very flash mob proposal. Maybe that'll work for her, although there are now interviews with her where she's saying, I am mortified to have been dragged onto the world stage like this.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to fly. But who knows? Who knows?
Is it going to fly like those inflated uniforms of those ski jumpers? We don't know. It remains to be seen.
They're like well-hung flying squirrels. Now that's how we now have to regard them.
I'm talking to Dan Savage, the author of the Savage Love column, iconic column, and of course the Savage Lovecast podcast host. And of course, when we talk the Olympics with Dan Savage, we have to get to the Penisgate controversy immediately. But there is a little bit of a different kind of controversy that has been lighting up at least American media in the last couple days. And that is some political comments that were made at a press conference. This was last Friday. It was reporters getting a chance to ask U.S. Olympic athletes how they feel about representing the U.S. during heightened immigration enforcement. Freestyle skier Chris Lillis said that he found the situation heartbreaking.
I think that as a country, we need to focus on respecting everybody's rights and making sure that we're treating our citizens as well as anybody with love and respect. And I hope that when people look at athletes compete in the Olympics, they realize that that's the America that we're trying to represent.
But it was fellow freestyle skier Hunter Hess from Bend, Oregon, who caught a lot more attention.
It brings up mixed emotions to represent the U.S. right now, I think. It's a little hard. There's obviously a lot going on that I'm not the biggest fan of, and I think a lot of people aren't. If it aligns with my moral values, I feel like I'm representing it. Just because I'm wearing the flag doesn't mean I represent everything that's going on in the U.S.
On Truth Social, President Trump responded to Hunter Hess, writing, quote, U.S. Olympic skier Hunter Hess is a real loser, says he doesn't represent his country in the current Winter Olympics. If that's the case, he shouldn't have tried out for the team, and it's too bad he's on it. Very hard to root for someone like this. Make America great again is the sign off there. There's been a lot of pile on from other folks kind of in the MAGA influencer space and elsewhere, folks like Jake Paul. What do you make
Megyn
of this?
Kelly.
Yeah, Megyn Kelly, of course. Dan, there's this sort of two-sided, culture war situation where it feels like everything's getting, thrown through the prism of polarization these days. These athletes were asked how they felt about representing the country right now, and they shared what they felt. What do you think about the
country where moms in minivans are being shot in the face by ICE agents, and ICU nurses who work in VA hospitals are being shot 10 times in the back by border control? I've traveled outside the U.S. During this administration, and I've been at dinner parties where there's been the WTF moment where everybody wants to ask me what the hell is happening here. And I love my country. I agree with James Baldwin, who said, "I love America more than any other country in the world, and exactly for this reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually." It used to be our freedom to love our country and to be patriotic and criticize the way we're governed or some shortcoming or failure of our national project was evidence of what we loved about America. I think of this Russian ballet star, Vladimir Shklyarov,
I think you nailed that pronunciation, yeah.
I apologize for mispronouncing the name. And ballet stars in Russia are like football stars in America. And he criticized the war in Ukraine. And he got window cancer, which is a thing that people in Russia develop who've criticized the regime. He was thrown from a fifth-floor window and died. And, of course, the media there reports that he fell. There's just been a lot of people falling out of windows in Russia under Putin in the last 5 years. And the sense you get from Trump and Megyn Kelly and Jake Paul and others on the right is that they wish they could throw these Olympic athletes out of a window, that it should be a kind of, if not literal death penalty, capital offense to criticize America under their leadership. It should be a social or economic or professional death penalty offense. And to that, I would say, who loves America? The person who believes in our First Amendment rights to criticize, to petition the government for redress of grievances, to point out its flaws and then still be embraced as a fellow American? Or Trump, who seems to, and his acolytes and followers, what they seem to want is not just totalitarianism, authoritarianism, and a kleptocracy, but a murderous authoritarianism like Trump's or like Putin's Russia.
Yeah.
And make America great again. That was never what made America great. The ability to criticize and to improve on what we had inherited as Americans or shared as Americans or became our inheritance as we were newly naturalized Americans is what made America different and special and great. And that's what they are trying to unwind. And I am perpetually, furiously angry about it. And I am so grateful to these Olympic athletes for speaking out. In the spirit of the Olympic athletes in '68 who raised their fists in the Black Power salute, Tommy Smith and John Carlos, who then were punished and retaliated against. That image is iconic because that was what it meant to represent truly what's great about America. And these athletes who are speaking out against the Trump administration as they represent all of America, and all of America is not the Trump administration. They're really, as much as I do enjoy the ski jumpers injecting acid into their penises part of this Olympics, they truly would have made the Olympics memorable for me, and they will go down in history like those athletes in '68.
When I see something like this, when it is sort of the story is the controversy on social media, I think about who profits from this and who has the most to lose. And these athletes who, their biggest stage is once every 4 years when they, get a few minutes on national television and people remember what freestyle skiing is. They have a lot to lose. Athletes who speak out. I mean, Colin Kaepernick is a great example recently. Martina Navratilova says she lost a ton of sponsorships when she came out publicly. These athletes who speak and are vocal about their political beliefs have so much to lose. And the people who talk about how mad they are at them have so much to gain, right? Like, it's part of the outrage monetization that we live in these days on social media. So, it's really hard to it's hard to see people who, again, have these are not NFL athletes. These are, the Kaepernick is one I brought up, but they're not NFL athletes. Like, they have very few opportunities to monetize what they do. And when you take that opportunity to speak out in a way that will probably lose you business or, bring you some kind of professional repercussions.
Or rain death threats down on your heads, as has been the case with all of these athletes.
Yes. It really adds a certain amount of weight and also makes you question, why, again, we have a setup where people are profiting from the anger. They're profiting from, the hate that is piled on these people, and they don't have anything to lose from it. They only have to gain. I just really quickly want to play a piece of Amber Glenn, the first openly queer woman to represent the U.S. in figure skating, who was asked during a separate press conference about President Trump's approach to the LGBTQ community. Here's Amber Glenn.
I hope I can use my platform and my voice throughout these games to try and encourage people to stay strong in these hard times. I know that a lot of people say, you're just an athlete, stick to your job, shut up about politics, but politics affect us all. It is something that I will not just be quiet about because it is something that affects us in our everyday lives. So, of course, there are things that I disagree with, but as a community, we are strong and we support each other, and brighter days are ahead of us.
So after the press conference, Glenn posted on Instagram, when I chose to utilize one of the amazing things about the United States of America, freedom of speech, to convey how I feel as an athlete competing for Team USA in a troubling time for many Americans, I am now receiving a scary amount of hate and threats for simply using my voice when asked about how I feel. I did anticipate this, Amber Glenn says, but I am disappointed by it. I will be limiting my time on social media for my own well-being for now, but I will never stop using my voice for what I believe in. XOXO, Amber. First of all, good for her for stepping back from social media.
I say that to people all the time when they're getting dragged on social media. You don't have to show up to get punched in the face. I've been dragged and I've been attacked by Fox News and right-wing websites, and my mentions blow up. And if somebody just wants to be awful to you online, you don't have to show up for it. You can go to a movie. You can rewatch Heated Rivalry. Again, you have options, and that she's modeling that for people, that she's turning away from her mentions right now is really good. Because somebody who sends a hateful death threat is not going to kill you. Somebody who wants to kill you doesn't send you a note or an invitation to your murder first. They just want to ruin that moment that you see it. And you can deprive them of that moment by not looking at their awful, hateful comment.
Yeah. Did you say heated rivalry, Dan Savage? Because that is a perfect segue to our next story.
Will we seeing each other or what?
Yeah, Boston and Montreal play against each other often.
Roz, you gotta see this.
He's like a huge movie star.
Are there any gay hockey players?
None that have said it publicly.
Just a taste of Heated Rivalry, a.k.a. the sexy gay hockey show that's burning up the streaming charts. I just watched it for the first time last night, Dan Savage, in preparation for this conversation. I got through 4 episodes. So I am just on the verge of what everybody says is the incredible ending of the first season. Variety reports that the streaming audience for season 1 has doubled since the finale in December, reaching more than 10.6 million U.S. viewers. It is now HBO Max's most watched acquired scripted series of all time. It was made by a Canadian production company called Crave. So this entire segment actually is just a major scam on my part because I just wanted to talk to Dan Savage about Heated Rivalry.
Oh my God, but you put me in this horrible position where I have to avoid spoilers for episode 5 and 6. I have to be very careful. Just like when I'm on National Public Radio and I can't swear. To tiptoe through the profanities, now I have to tiptoe through the spoilers.
I mean, you can titillate us. You just can't fully spoil, is what I'm asking. What do you think of the show? And I guess my second question would be, is it an important show in your opinion?
I think it's amazing, and I think it's really very important, especially at this time. just yesterday, the Trump administration ordered the removal of the pride flag from outside the Stonewall National Monument, which is a monument to the Stonewall Inn, which was the site of the Stonewall riots that kicked off the modern fight for gay rights and LGBT equality. And so at this moment when trans people are being banned from the military, when there are these assaults on the rights of LGBT people, a new push to overturn Obergefell, the Supreme Court decision legalizing same-sex marriage that made it possible for my husband and I to get married a second time, but in America that time, that the biggest hit in the world is this love story between two professional athletes that is complicated and not at all straight-washed, not at all sanitized for your straight eyeballs protection. This is very much a gay love story. It's very authentic to the gay experience, to how many gay people's relationships, their loving, lasting, committed relationships start. These are two men who have a sexual bond and a sexual connection, who keep hooking up and then catch feelings. In a typical romantic comedy or portrayal of romance in a film, there's a long, slow burn where feelings are caught and then sex happens.
It's like the inversion of Bridgerton.
Yes. And that feels very authentic, I think, for gay men who are watching. Jacob Tierney, who adapted Rachel Reed's novels Game Changer and called it Heated Rivalry instead, she's a woman who wrote this story about a male-male romance. And there are a lot of stories out there written about gay sex, gay romances by
Does that make it inauthentic
authors.
Because it is from a female lens and it's about gay men?
I reject that. I think that we're capable of moral intuition, moral empathy, and projecting ourselves into someone else's experience if we're artists. I think that combo of Rachel Reed's source material and Jacob Tierney's gayness and authenticity around gayness and insistence on the authenticity. Very famously, we now know, in the wake of the enormous hit that it is, that he took it to American production companies and streamers and studios with much larger budgets. And they wanted, the notes he got from execs at those companies was that they didn't want the characters to have sex until the second season, which was to impose a kind of straight frame on a gay romance. Gay men have sex and then fall in love. Straight people fall in love and then have sex. At least that's how it's shown in the movies. I know lots of straight people personally who had one-night stands and then wound up marrying that one-night stand. My husband of 31 years was a one-night stand for me too.
But the straitjacket of the way that romance is shown in the Bridgerton model, for example, is very narrow.
And Tierney rejected it. Tierney said, no, I'm going to go with a much smaller budget and all unknown actors, and thank God, because it's made huge stars of Connor Story and Hudson Williams, and tell this truthful version of this story and create an authentic representation of a gay romance. And Connor Story's character, Ilya, is bi. It's gay sex. It's a same-sex male relationship. Shane is gay. So, like, if you rounded it up, it's a gay love story. One of the guys, as many guys in same-sex relationships with other men are, is bisexual. I don't want to commit an act of bi erasure here. But it is very authentic to the gay experience. And some of it's really heartbreaking. And I'm flabbergasted because I watched the first two episodes going, okay, this is Skinemax. I've seen this kind of stuff on TV before with straight characters where it's like very explicit, very sexual.
It felt like a throwback to HBO of like the early 90s, like a Red Shoe Diaries style.
And it's almost like Jacob Tierney as an artist ratcheted all of our expectations down by going, this is just softcore Skinemax, HBO in the 90s, but gay.
Which I wasn't mad at.
I was not mad at either. Anytime anybody wants to show me a butt like Connor Stories on television, I am there for it, whatever the framing is or the conceit is. And then I was just basically, my defenses were down. And then along comes episode 3, 4, 5, and like it snuck up on me. And like I'm sitting there on the couch, particularly one scene where these guys have been having sex with each other for years, and one comes out to the other as gay. And I'm like watching this crying because this took me back to what it was like when I was a closeted gay teenager having sex with another guy who was also not gay. And I ruined it by having feelings. I ruined it by being the gay one. And to actually see that on television, that experience that is so common to a lot of gay people and gay men, particularly my generation, who didn't come out when they were 13 years old, I was surprisingly devastated. I was like, I after watching the first 2 episodes, I'm like thinking, well, I'm a crier, like, but this show is not going to make me cry. And then like around comes episode, I think it's 4, and I'm like sobbing.
Yeah.
And I'm so invested in these characters, and I can't wait for season 2.
It's like the infrastructure of putting them in the pro sports world brings us back to a time before you could safely come out. I mean, not that everybody can safely come out today.
And
but...
Ilya being Russian. Mm-hmm. Because there's this wonderful scene where Shane asks Ilya, like, if we could be together, would you want to? And Ilya says, we can't. And Shane says, why not? And Ilya just says, because Russia. I could never go home. Like the stakes for Ilya in Russia now to be openly gay. You know, Russia has all these horrible anti-gay laws that have criminalized being out. If you want to know when the American right fell in love with Putin, it was when he began attacking LGBT people. And now they're running the script here too. That's when people started going on Fox News praising Putin and Russia and how masculine Russia's military was. It was when they began to beat up queers. And so the stakes for Ilya are really what are kind of reminiscent of the stakes for gay people being out in the United States in the 50s. You'd lose your family, lose your job, you'd be unemployable, you might go to prison, you might be lobotomized, sent to a camp. That's what's happening to gay people right now in Russia. And yet, love, you don't want to say love wins, because that's such a gooey cliche now. And yet, that love, that attraction, that spark, it can't be smothered to death. It fights back, and it refuses to be extinguished. And to have all of this playing out in the living rooms of millions of straight people at a moment when queer people are under attack, it's almost as if, just like the figure skater talking about we live in hope for a better time and a better future. It's like, yeah, right now is terrible, but we can see in the embrace the phenomena that heated rivalry is, that the people who are trying to undo Obergefell are not going to win. And the people who are attacking trans people are not going to win because there are too many good people out there who are, you can't sit through heated rivalry all the way once if you are incapable of recognizing the humanity of gay men and bi men. And so it gives me hope for the future. And this is an aberration. What's being done to us right now is not who we are, just like the other Olympic athletes said.
I want to ask really quickly before we go, again, putting your advice columnist hat on. So there is sort of like a bottle episode, I think it's chapter 3, where this American pro hockey player named Scott has a crush on a smoothie making artist named Kip, Christopher, and
who's more jacked than any of the pro athletes. It's literally my only note for the show. The actor who played Kip was great. It was a missed opportunity to show that not all jacked mask guys are attracted to only other jacked mask guys.
Yeah.
Like the minute Kip took his clothes up, you're like, that's no art major I've ever seen.
Right.
Like, why couldn't that have been like some 6 foot tall, 150 pound skinny art twink with a mop of purple hair?
Yeah. Not a huge amount of diversity in terms of body types on the show. But so the scenario is that I want to get your advice on. If you are Kip, you are working at a smoothie shop, one of the most famous athletes in your town, pro hockey player who is closeted but turns out is gay and is into you, makes like a huge advance on you, like showers you with love and affection, you know, puts you up in his amazing apartment, clearly is willing to financially support you through your art grad school ? Whatever you're up to. And yet he's not out because he's a pro hockey player. You know, the strictures of where he's at in his career, he believes he can't be out safely.
And he's absolutely right.
And so that's what I want you to know. So if you were advising Kip in that moment, Kip eventually, as far as we know, at least in the point that I'm in the series, Kip says he can't be a secret. He can't live this way and wait for Scott to eventually come out. How would you advise Kip in this scenario?
Well, if Scott was at the beginning of his career, I might advise Kip to break up with Scott. To date somebody in the closet is to go back into the closet yourself. It's another thing. It's my only note for the show is Scott could have passed Kip off as some dude from his gym. Kip doesn't necessarily read gay. I think it would have been more interesting if just standing next to Kip made Scott look gay, because there was no reason he would be standing next to Kip if there wasn't something going on.
Like if he was more overtly
gay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think it could have been more emotionally tricky and interesting, because you would have put the actor or the character Kip in this position of like, this is who I am, and I'm arty, and I have like piercings, and I have purple hair, and I'm going to dial it back for you. And that's what dating someone in the closet is like. But in the course of the show, if like the character of Kip was talking to me, I'd be like, okay, so how long is he will come out, he says, when his career is over.
But can you trust that?
A year from now, 2 years from now? Can you trust anything?
Yeah.
And in the meantime, like you get to roll around in the satin sheets or the silk sheets of one of the hottest pro athletes in the world,
who clearly loves you and is valuing you in most ways, and yes, can't be
and acknowledges that he's asking you to do a difficult and painful thing.
Right.
Is that difficult and painful thing you're being asked to do a temporary thing? Someone who won't be seen in public with you doesn't love you. You know, I think of my friends who are very large women who sometimes are like will date somebody who won't be seen in public with them. That's not love. Someone who, for a good reason right now, can't, but is planning on and working toward, as long as you see the progress being made. I believe that that's something you can endure for love for 12 months or 18 months or 2 years, but not for decades. If Scott was the same age as Ilya and Shane at the beginning of the show, he would have been asking Kip to do that for 20 years. But Scott is in his 40s. He's asking Kip potentially to do that for 18 months. I don't know. Like, I love my husband so much, I would walk through hell for him for 18 months. Like, I could do it. So I think because of the specifics of Scott and Kip's situation, my advice for Kip would have been to suck it up in all meanings and understandings of that term.
It's how I felt watching it. However, I was thinking to myself, like, maybe I don't understand what it's like to date somebody in the closet. And as you say, to be pulled back in the closet because of that. So I'm looking at it from a totally different lens. But yeah, I don't know. I would give up a lot for that apartment. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I was wondering why they never pulled the shades in that apartment. If you're really that closeted and you're like one of the most famous men in the world and you live in Manhattan and you're making out with this hot boy in front of your wide open windows with the lights on, it's like, okay.
Yeah. Also,
maybe you want to be outed.
Yeah, those smoothies, it's a good thing he's handsome because those smoothies looked gross.
And he's also the only customer of that smoothie shop. They are not good smoothies. There's 2 employees and 1 customer in that smoothie shop ever.
Yeah. Okay. I'm talking with Dan Savage, the author of the iconic Savage Love column, host of the Savage Lovecast podcast. I just have one more question for you, Dan, and we're going to get a little help from our friends.
You choose me? Happy Valentine's.
Okay, how can people have the best Valentine's Day ever, Dan, before we go really quick?
It's advice I can't really share, as I would say it on my own podcast or in my column. Have sex first. We abbreviate that as FF, as first. I would get letters every year writing Savage Love, and I still get them from people who are very upset on February 15th because they didn't have sex with their romantic partner on February 14th. And when I would write some of these people back and ask them to describe what happened, or they described what happened, they went out for dinner, they had a huge rich meal, the coq au vin, the wine, the chocolate mousse, and then they went home and of course they fell asleep. You can't have sex on a stomach that full of rich food. So the ideal way to structure Valentine's Day, if having sex on Valentine's Day is important to you, sex first, then dinner. have a light snack at 5 o'clock, have sex at 6, 7 o'clock, go out to dinner at 8:30, 9 o'clock at the last reservation. The staff will be a little exhausted, but they won't be as harried as they were at 7 or 8 o'clock. If the restaurant got a special for Valentine's Day, you'll probably get bigger portions because they'll be unloading all of it, and you'll have built up an appetite having
with a little
sex
aerobic activity
at 7 o'clock. So that's my advice for Valentine's Day. If sex and a romantic grand gesture kind of meal is important, don't make the mistake everybody makes of meal first and then awful, gassy, not very good sex on a full stomach. The other way around.
That's amateur stuff.
That is amateur stuff. Blank first and then dinner. And who knows, maybe you'll get home from dinner and you'll catch another groove and you'll have a little bonus.
Yeah, second wind.
Yeah, a second wind.
Dan Savage, author of Savage Love, the column, of course, the Savage Lovecast podcast. Such a big fan of yours, Dan. It's such a pleasure to sit down with you. This has been so fun. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Happy Valentine's Day.
And you too.
Thanks for listening to Soundside. Don't forget you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 Seattle at noon and 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, or anytime right here online at KUOW.org, or of course on your favorite podcast app.